Hello and welcome to the Kaseke podcast. My name's Luke and I'm joined as ever by Nick Good. And we're going to talk about Daredevil Season 1, which was on Netflix, but now it's on Disney Plus. And we're on episode 2, which is called Cutman. We also have a little bit of pop culture goodness for you, where we talk about Ahsoka and about the Rebel Moon trailer that dropped from Zack Snyder, which is due out Christmas. So we're going to talk about that. Is it Star Wars? We don't really know. We have some thoughts on it nonetheless. So sit back, put your headphones on, make a cup of tea, and join us for the Consistent OK podcast. Daredevil from the Netflix run from many years ago now.
Yes.
And we're on episode 2, which is called Cutman. It's a very, very good episode, but for those of you who are joining in new for episode 2, which is a bit crazy if you haven't listened to episode 1 of season 4 of the Kaseke podcast, we talk about episode 1 of Daredevil. Then where are we in this TV show? Well, what's happened so far is that young Matt Murdock, we saw a very brief glimpse of him getting hurt and the accident that led to him having these heightened senses and powers, I guess you could say. We learn a little bit about the bigger bad in this Hell's Kitchen world, which is Kingpin, although he's only known as he's not Wilson Fisk yet, is he? He's just the boss. I can't remember because he's not in episode 2, is he?
No.
So he's like a higher up. There's like an overall big crime wave going on in Hell's Kitchen, and Kingpin is at the top, although he's just known as like the man at the top. Like no one calls him by his name. There are several gangs all vying for like different territory in Hell's Kitchen, and Matt Murdock, as now a vigilante dressed in all black, not Daredevil yet, he's basically taking apart the crime wave as he can, with like basically finding his feet as an early day vigilante.
Nice.
And it was a really, really good episode, very dark and gritty. And then this kind of carries on with that theme, Nick.
Yes.
I didn't ask you how you were actually, but how are you?
Doing all good. For anybody watching the video, I've realised I've got this very like ethereal background going on where the sun is hitting a building, and it's like it's backlighting me. Yeah, I'm all good.
And I'm outside of my usual den. I'm in the upstairs part of our house, which is beautiful and pretty, and not dark and gloomy like my den is. So. Look at us.
But yeah, all good. You know, we're what week is this? So the week that this episode comes out, we'll be shipping Lone Tales in like 10 days, something like that.
Happy days.
A week. So that's pretty much done. My next comic is like brewing, which might have been pre-launched by the time that we release this episode. So I might be talking about that a bit more.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
I mean, for anyone interested in Lone Tales, like you will be able to buy it digitally as well. And if you look at our social media channels on Threads and Instagram, you can actually see some sort of, you can see what it looks like.
You'll be able to see pictures.
We're going to post photos of it, and maybe it will make you think, you know what, that sounds bloody brilliant. And then you'll get your own copy.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, it's all good. How about you? How's things?
Good. Not much happened in my life since we last recorded. I did have a baby. That happened.
Yeah.
Got a baby boy called Atlas. So he's now here. So now I'm a father of 3, which is, exciting. A 7-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a newborn. So So yeah,
I thought you just said you were a father at 3. I was like, what?
I'm a father at 3. Yeah, I was a father at 3. Yeah, I've got loads of kids. I basically have a kid every few years. So
excellent.
So that's all that's happened in my life. So just another kid. Just thank you. Just everyday occurrence is having another child. So we were supposed to record this episode actually last week, but that's when he decided to arrive, not on the podcast. Like that would be very weird if we had a whole episode where this baby arrived, just my wife in labor and me being like, just
the hallway scene.
Talking about Daredevil, the hallway scene, yeah. But otherwise than that, all good. So very excited to talk more about Daredevil. So episode 2.
Yeah.
it's another really good episode, isn't it? I think watching these back now, I appreciate it more, and I refuse to get locked into MCU chat again because I'm obviously at a bit of a crossroads in my view on what the MCU is to me. And I keep reading all these things about it and how they can reset it and what they can do, but no, not today. Because this episode actually has nothing to do with the MCU. There is no mention of the Avengers or anything like that. So, but the only thing I will say is that such a massive difference in what could be done to what they're currently doing. Like when I watch this, I think about what they could have done with Moon Knight and what they could have done with like other shows that could have been a bit grittier. And this is just the way it's shot, from the flashbacks when he's a young Matt Murdock to when he is vigilante Daredevil, like the Man in Black. It's just shot in that sort of HBO, like dark, gloomy, very well scripted. And that's not to say the other MCU shows aren't well scripted. A lot of them do have their moments and things, but I'm talking more recently. It's like filtered away. I know you think differently. You've had this like sort of like hate relationship with the MCU for many years, but it's really well done. And I think the way that they've done what I probably want to focus on first is the origin story, because I talked about that a little bit in the last episode, where it was very small, but that was all that was needed. It was like he's had an accident, his eyes are something's happened to his eyes, like there's a lot of worry there. But then this sort of give you little glimpses, and they do it a lot later in this series with Wilson Fisk as well, where they give you just the right amount of background without it smothering the whole episode, without it taking over, because you get like this dynamic of what he went through when he was younger with his dad, and to how he's carried that on into his vigilante life as Daredevil and his adult life and his personal life. I think it's a really touching connection between his dad and him. Like the fact that his dad could be this guy that he's taking fools to make money to pay for them to be in their apartment, and then in the end, obviously spoilers, that he goes out on a high, basically sacrificing his future with his son to have this one moment where not only he can look after his son financially, but also like he wants his son to hear his name chanted and everything. So I think it's a wonderful, like fantastic episode. I've always loved this episode. Like I think the origin is just really well done. I don't think they overdo it like the way I'm talking now. I just keep talking about it. I think they go in and out of it at the right times. It looks great, like the aesthetics and everything look great compared to like with the colors and everything. Like the robe, like his robe, like the dad's boxing robe with the red, like the Daredevil red, is just awesome as well. So what do you think? Like the episode of it and the origin?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I feel like the first two episodes are almost like one long episode. Like they're so tied together that they almost don't act as individual episodes. When we get into episode three feels like it's very much an episode. In that, like, yes, there are plot threads and stuff, but it feels less connected to one and two. 1 and 2 seems to just be like, as you say, it is the origin. It's here's your full Matt Murdock story.
I mean, you don't get the, which comes, I think actually doesn't come to like season 3 or a bit in season 2 with Stick, but like it's not about like how he learns to use his senses or anything.
Yeah, no, it's more.
It's not like that. It's not like the with Spider-Man where he like gets bit and then all of a sudden he can do flips and everything, and Uncle Ben does. This is like just as a kid, like.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Yeah. And I think that, like, that's cool to kind of see like that they gave that such room to breathe and stuff. So I think that stuff. Yeah, I'm all in with you that it works really well and it's really interesting and it's shot in such a nice way, and there's just like loads of bits as well, like between like his dad and him where they're just sort of sat around, and it's like, I don't know how to describe it. There's almost, you get the real sense that it's like it's a guy's trying and is kind of failing at doing it, but he's still trying everything he can to do the right thing. And I think a lot of that comes across in just performance and the way things are shot and the framing of kind of an image and stuff. So that I think comes across really well. In terms of the present day stuff, it's quite an interesting episode because like not a whole lot happens until that hallway scene. Like it's a lot of just Matt sort of on a couch struggling.
Yeah.
And obviously we get the intro of Night Nurse, Rosario Dawson, who I completely forgot was in this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I completely forgotten that she was in the MCU, technically.
She's like a linking thing. She's like Teg, isn't she, in this? Like the guy professor, she pops up in several episodes of several of the Netflix series.
Yeah, like as soon as she popped up, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that was the sort of initial bridge was like she appears in, I think she's in Luke Cage, isn't she?
Yeah, she's like a love interest, isn't she, in Luke Cage?
Yeah.
And she's in Punisher as well, I think.
Yeah, I think
a little bit.
And so when she appeared, I was like, oh yeah, like she's amazing casting. Like she is brilliant as Claire. And I was like, yeah, I'm really in for that. And then so much of what this episode does is it's almost about Matt's kind of like his morality, I guess, in terms of like trying to do the right thing as a lawyer and it doesn't work. And so the persona of Daredevil is what gets the job done.
Well, it's the same as Claire Temple, right? As a night nurse. Like she does things. She can't do everything she wants to do as a nurse, so she does things outside of that perimeter, and that's where there's a bond there. Quite, although they don't know each other well enough to know, she knows from talking to patients that there's a man in black who's doing all these good things. So that's why she looks after him, right? She doesn't trust much of what's going on, but she knows there's good there, and he obviously has a sense as well that she's helped him. She didn't have to help him. She could have left him for dead, or her neighbor could have left him for dead. So they both are doing this. They're doing it in different ways, but they're both doing good things. Which is great because their dynamic is perfect, because there's like, it's dark because he's been stabbed and he's like punctured his lung and everything. But also there's like a bit of humor because they are both nervous to find out, to feel each other out a little bit. So it's really good. She's really good. Rosario Dawson is very good in this series, not just this episode.
Yeah, and I think the second episode works really well because of that, because it's almost like you get the sort of like young Matt Murdock story about trying to see like his dad do the right thing and what that cost, and then you get the old Matt Murdock story, and it's like he's been trying to do the right thing, but the right thing doesn't ever work in a kind of straightforward manner. It's like he has to go on and fight to try and do the right thing.
That's also Rosario Dawson, the parallel there between what young Matt Murdock is seeing in his dad and Rosario Dawson's trying to see it in the Man in Black. Like, you've been battered now. This is where you stay down. He's like, no, this is where I get up, and she respects it. Like he respected his dad, right? Like there's there's like a thing there, like a parallel, which is very cool.
Yeah, it feels like quite a clever episode. That it's it is like those two episodes are so linked, and I think so much this season. Like I watched episode 3 last night, but so much of it is kind of becoming apparent that they really deal with the morality of Matt Murdock. That it's his sense of right and wrong, which kind of goes back to that first episode, like opening up with his monologue where he's sort of talking to the priest, and it is just very much, I'm going to do some things, and they're the things I'm asking for forgiveness for to an extent. And I think this episode is the tail end of that conversation, where it's like, like when he pushes the guy off the edge of the building, it's like the pause between him pushing and then her being like, is he alive? And it's like that didn't even cross his like thoughts. It's like he stops and then he's like, yeah, he's breathing. But it's like when he pushed him off, it was like he didn't have that care. Yeah. And I think that is again, it links those two episodes so well, because it's like, this is kind of how far he's willing to go. Like whether the person is still alive is a second thought.
And when he jabs that knife into his frontal lobe, then Claire Temple's like, "This is where you're at." I mean, that's quite dark. I mean, bearing in mind the first image again, it's like when we said about the first episode, like it's straight away it's dark because it's like blood dripping off a dumpster. You can't imagine any MCU show opening like that now. Like a lot of blood, and he's battered, and it's I think because you kind of touched upon, but there aren't many characters in this episode. Like Foggy and Karen's part is very isolated. It's just those two, which is like the relief, the comedic relief. But also, Karen gets quite dark in the bar, right? It's like la 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 la. We're drinking. Is there a worm at the bottom of this bottle? Or an eel? I think they say.
Yeah,
and it's just like I can't get the blood out my carpet, and it's like, fuck. And that's like, okay, we're going to drink. We're going to have a good time, but you know they're going to go and try and find Matt, but Matt's actually half dead on a rooftop somewhere. But there aren't a lot of players in this episode, whereas obviously the episode before, when you're assessing all the gangs and everything like that, and you've got like Wesley and loads of different players that play. But this was very Claire and Matt Murdock with the detective that they're torturing, and you've got Claire and Foggy until the last scene with all the Russians, but they're not really like part of like any of the like dialogue parts of the episode. So it's very like very compact, the episode, which works really well because it's not like, again, we talked about it with other MCU things that they just put so much so quickly in these episodes. Bam, 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 bam. It's like, okay, it's a 30-minute episode. We've got to cram all of this, these characters in there. This is like, let's let it breathe. We've got an hour. Actually, I mean, my wife Yannick actually said like these first two episodes, they get an awful lot done. It doesn't feel like it's overstuffed either. Like, you know, Karen, over 2 episodes, she's gone from being potentially going to prison to cleared with a new job and actually having a laugh with Foggy, but it's not done in a way that feels rushed. It's like naturally feel good. And it's the same with Matt Murdock. He's gone from, okay, so he's the man in black and he's just having it looks like he's having his first fight when we see him, like in the Russians, but he's been doing it on and off obviously before that. But so now, like, okay, now he's going to tackle these Russians. But again, it doesn't feel like it's come out of nowhere. It's like, you know, it's like very well paced and very well organized. And I think less is more. Is probably my point I'm trying to say with this rant that I'm going on now. And it's really just all well done. The whole episode, the dialogue between Charlie Cox and Rosaire Dawson, and I can't remember his name in real life. Foggy. I can't remember his name. We'll just call him Foggy.
Yeah, I can't.
And Deborah Ann Wolf, is that her name?
Deborah Ann Wolf, yeah.
There you go. See, I've got 3 out of 4. That's progress. We're only on episode 2. You look at me go, once we've done the whole season, I'll be just using real names across the board. Yeah, really, really, really nice, like, moments between, like Rosaire and Charlie Cox. Sorry, just going to call them by the comic names. Claire Temple and Matt Murdock and Foggy and Karen. Like, solid stuff.
Yeah, like that thing with Karen as well, the whole, like, just like the way that they frame her and Foggy kind of building their relationship, and it then being like, for Karen, it's the whole can't get the blood out of the carpet thing. Like, that is really well written and performed and stuff. Like, there is such a not like a, it's not like a helplessness to it, but it's like she can't move on is the thing. I think that's what it is that it's like, because the blood is still in the carpet, and it's like she's obviously kind of seen this glimmer of, I could help people by working in this law firm with these 2 people. It's like, that's her wanting to move on, is like, you know, I worked for a company that were shit, and I've sort of seen a bit of a glimmer of hope to work here. However, the thing that is pulling me back in is like, I can't move on from this trauma, like this thing that happened. And again, I think like so much of the episode is framed like that. Like, everybody, maybe minus Foggy at the moment, sort of has trauma in some way. Like, Matt obviously has the trauma of his dad, which is so present in these episodes, and Claire's sort of got this trauma in the sense of, like, you know, helping people. It's kind of like there's a morality to how she does it. It's not like, you know, she's willing to help everyone. Like, that whole conversation that she gives about like what is it, the guy that comes in that she's like, he was hitting women or something, is that the
Yeah, there was a girl who got attacked in an alleyway, and there was a guy who was hitting women, or attacking women.
Yeah, and you sort of get the sense that she's kind of like, you have to help them because that's the role as the nurse, like no matter what they've done. But there is also just kind of like I help them and they're going to go out and do it again. Like I'm facilitating that. And so her way of helping Matt is it's like he's the guy that will stop that person doing that. And so you kind of suddenly see, like, again, which isn't something you'd get, I think, in a current MCU show, is they're dealing with trauma and they're dealing with like all these things that are like pretty thematically heavy and
well, it's stakes, isn't it? Like you always say. Like they've all got stakes. Claire's putting herself in jeopardy by just helping Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock's putting his whole life on the line every week. Like Karen risked everything by coming forward, and I mean, Foggy doesn't have that much on the line at the moment, other than the fact that he wants to make it as a lawyer, but his partner is never around. I was also going to say, I meant to say it while we're talking about Karen, but you also get the sense already that she has a bit of a crush on Matt Murdock, right? Because like when they both go to his apartment, it's kind of like the best friend and the one who has a crush on him. Like it's like they both really want him there, but for very different reasons. Like, because she obviously seemed to warm to him quite a lot early on as well in the first episode. So I think that's kind of interesting. Obviously, we know it plays out a certain way, but it's she's kind of rejects Foggy straight out. Like that's not going to happen. Even though I'm sure Foggy would if he was allowed to. So
but I think like
some like little drops of like hints that she's obviously going to fall for Matt Murdock.
Yeah, and I think as well, like the Foggy of it all is like he's almost like your gateway into normality of like he is just somebody who is trying to do the right thing through this law firm. Like he's trying to make a difference doing it. And then you've got Karen, who has this trauma that she's like, I can't let it go to an extent. And maybe the law isn't the right way to solve that. And then for Matt, it's like he's sort of half foot in the law, half foot into I'm gonna go and be Daredevil or the Man in Black. And I think that Foggy is kind of your way in. He's like almost he is almost the one that's like you want Matt to be kind of happy in what he's got and work for that, because you can kind of see like Matt, Foggy, and Karen being this trio of like they're doing good, but the whole world is just a messy thing that almost that normality will never work. Like I think that's almost like the sort of tragic or if you want like trauma for Foggy, is that it's like he's trying to bring normality into a situation where it's like it's never gonna be normal. Which just their dynamic is always really interesting, I think.
But Foggy has, that's why we talked about before, the fact that they're not coming back for the Daredevil show, the Born Again show.
Yeah.
Like Foggy, Karen, and Matt Murdock, like those three together, and it's so massive from this TV show that Foggy's arc going on for these 3 seasons is massive. Like his character change and his views on Matt and like Karen and what he goes through, and even these early days now, like you said, like because he's like the gateway into this, but he's a huge role in it. Like it just wouldn't feel the same. That's my worry. It wouldn't feel the same because we're so used to these 3. Like even now, again, it's something my wife mentioned as well. Like even now, you feel like you want these 3 to always be around each other because there's such a great dynamic already. Like even though we don't even see Matt Murdock with Karen or Foggy in this episode, but if he was there with them at the bar, like it would be good. It would be fun and interesting. Like you miss him being with those 2, but you're happy with just those 2 as well. So it's it's massive. Those all 3 of those roles, and it's natural in a TV series, right, that they will go on their different paths and journeys, and then they all like eventually circle back. But they're all really interesting. One thing that made me think about when they've got the detective on the rooftop and they're torturing him, just made me think about season 2 with Punisher tying up Daredevil on the rooftop and how fucking awesome that is, and how pumped I was when I saw the trailer for season 2. So I can't think. I mean, I kind of want to watch everything now to do. I want to watch Luke Cage again, and I want to watch Jessica Jones again. I want to watch Defenders. I don't really remember Defenders um, that much.
I completely forgot that Sigourney Weaver was in it as well. I was
Yeah,
like,
she
what?
is. Yeah, she's in it. Yeah, she's like the main villain, isn't she? She's like
Yeah,
top of the spoilers, the hand.
yeah.
So it's good. I mean, I could probably go through Iron Fist again, maybe.
Do you know what? I didn't mind the first series of Iron Fist. It's the
I
second one
think
that doesn't work. The first I was fine with.
I actually don't think I mind the second series. I think I was more
Okay.
put off by the first. I can't. The second one's the one with second one is the one with what's that villain's name? Oh, Dark. What's it called? She called. She's like a toxic one.
Yeah,
No,
I can't remember.
it's going to really annoy me.
Because I quite
There's
like
one thing I know
Davros
it's
in the
comic. One
first
thing I know
series.
it's comic names.
Yeah,
Oh wow, it's gone. It'll come back to me.
yeah.
So anyway, there's loads to look forward to. I really like the fact this episode that they don't mention Kingpin at all. Like it doesn't come up.
Mm.
Like there's obviously a tease that like the guy says like you get rid of me, then another person will come as well. But
Yeah.
one thing I have to apologise though for, if anybody listens to the first episode, is that I said in a very big rant of mine that I love the fact the hallway scene doesn't close out the episode two, and it does. Nick was right, I was wrong. So
I have watched it recently, to be fair. So if I hadn't watched it at that point,
my logic was that I remember watching it and thinking that I watched this the way around is that he goes off to save the boy at the end of episode. When you hear the boy scream at episode 2, it actually opens with like there's a little bit before where he's like battered and bruised and in a dumpster, but that comes from the hallway scene. But
okay, yeah,
I got it mixed up.
the other way around.
But regardless of my being incorrect, it is such a good scene to end on. Like it is one take. It felt a bit shorter than I remember it being.
I think that's because
I wonder if it's because there's been other versions of it now. Like
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like when I watched it, I was like, oh, that felt shorter. But I wonder if it's because the season 3 hallway is so long.
So long. And since then, we've had the bear. We've done a whole episode of one-shot things.
Yeah.
So, which is just as much choreography as this, but it's really well done. It looks great. Like there's like a moment like where you kind of hold your breath because it pans around in the hallway. It goes. The boy gets his food, and the guy walks out, and then it turns into the room on the right, technically, and there's a switch. Then it goes through another door, and then it peers around, and like there's no one in that shot at the other end of the hallway. But bear in mind, he's half dead. Like Daredevil is like battered. He just walks up, and it's just like no shit's given, and he gets his ass kicked. And when I was watching it yesterday, like Yannicka just said, like he's just every punch he throws at the end, he's just absolutely knackered. Like he's got, but like he's putting as much as he can. It's still doing damage because everyone he's beaten up is also knackered.
Yeah,
that's really exciting.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think when you were talking about like Moon Knight earlier on, that's the stuff that almost like isn't in that frame of like in that world, which is kind of like fair enough. Moon Knight obviously has some superpowers to an extent, a little bit, but like the comics, I'd always read him as like a brawler, like similar to Daredevil, where it's like
definitely 100%.
He is putting everything into it, even if he is absolutely broken and knackered. And I think that's the thing that this hallway scene does so well, is that it's not like he goes in and just kicks ass and everything goes well. It's like he does genuinely get the shit kicked into him, but he keeps going for it. Like he just keeps fighting.
But that's what Moon Knight is like. Like half the time his white costume is just covered in blood because again, you what I don't understand is MCU time again. If you're Kevin Feige and the executives and all these people, if you know what can be done, if you've seen Daredevil, but then you inherit like a character like Moon Knight, Ghost Rider and stuff like that. These Marvel Knights characters, these dark and gritty, shop floor, kick ass, not going into space and stuff. Like these guys are like, they're nighttime. Let's batter the shit out of these bad guys like Punisher and stuff like that. Well, you get that with Punisher in this thing, and then with Moon Knight, because I really like the character of Moon Knight as well, but like because it gets a bit fluffed up. Like there are bits of Moon Knight that are really good. Like I like pretty much most of the stuff that happens in like it's really weird, but in the bedroom, when he's not sure who he is and what's happened, and he's tied up and he's got sand around his bed because he's like, if I leave this space, I don't know what terrible things I'm going to do to the bad guys.
Yeah.
Like I like that idea, but what we needed more of is what he did do to the bad guys, the Egyptian stuff and everything, is thing that just needed him. Like, he didn't have to leave. He didn't have to leave America. Like, he just, there should have been a crime thing, and he should have been there just destroying them. Like, amped up even more than Daredevil, like, because he does have a bit more about him as well, power wise. I missed it, and that's what this Netflix thing does so well. Like, Luke Cage, like, you put that guy in the MCU as of now, and he's something completely different to what we see Mike Calder do in Luke Cage now, because they're all down to earth, right? That's the thing with Daredevil, especially, is like something that you get from this is like, it's okay. It's in reality, it's not going to happen with a blind person with their heightened senses that can tackle on the underground, right? But it's done in a way here that it feels like this could happen. Like, he's doing, it's very realistic. Like, he is absolutely exhausted after these fight scenes. Like, he's broken, he's bruised. I think I read something as well a while ago that his costume is like ripped like most of the season. Like, his a lot of his clothes that he wears, because he's just, he doesn't go shop the next day. He's just like going from day to day, like fighting. He's fighting so much that he's just not time to heal or do anything. So it's I think I want more of what I saw last night, but it's unfortunate. I know what I've seen is probably one, when this is all done, if I rewatch the other ones as well, that's it temporarily until they. I really do want to be excited for Daredevil, for the MCU. Like, it's so much.
That's the thing. I
want to feel like Drew Baker Daredevil or Frank Miller Daredevil or something. But
because like this hallway scene is just like, obviously it's like one of the things that Daredevil became known for, like this series of it anyway, is like the hallway scene action, because it was such a standout, because people were like, what the fuck, that was really intense. And like, when he shows up in She-Hulk, he doesn't really like take a beating. He's just in the action, and it's like he's doing flips, and it's cool, and it's like, okay. But where's the guy who, will like take a ton of punches and just keep going? Like, that scene where he's fighting with She-Hulk is so different to this hallway scene, because it's in She-Hulk, it's like he's confident, he just knows how everything works, and it's all cool. And I get that, probably comes with experience, but even in season 3 of Daredevil, I still remember him taking a beating, because like,
he pulls like backwards him half the time.
Yeah, because he is just he's just a dude. Like, fair enough, he knows what he's doing, but like, it's just, that's the thing that I'm worried about, is that like they go into Born Again, and it's he doesn't take as many hits because he's the hero, and because
but it's same with the villain though, isn't it? Like Wilson Fisk, like the way Wilson Fisk manhandles Daredevil, he manhandles him in a way like, I'm a bigger, stronger guy than you. I can lift you up and I can slam you down. But then in Hawkeye, he picks up Kate Bishop and he throws her so far, like it's automatically unrealistic, right? Because Kingpin doesn't have any special abilities. He's just a very, very strong, well-trained man. But in this, like, he has to get Daredevil in quite close to really deal out maximum damage to him, like by pounds on the chest and everything like that, and the same in like the prison scenes and everything. So I am worried that the realisticness that we mentioned, that gets taken away in this MCU version of him, because he won't get punched and he won't fall down, and like those sort of things. So I did very well not talking about the MCU, but I did talk about for at least 20% of this episode. So.
It's hard though, like when you get to this away scene, because it is such a staple of like what this show is like, and to do it in the second episode as well, to just go, okay, here's your big superhero fight, and it's uncomfortable, and it's kind of like, Matt is broken. Like, that's the other thing, is like, second episode, and they've shown that this superhero is incredibly vulnerable because he's pretty much on death's door, and then he still goes and fights. Like, he will still go and get that kid, and the way he does it is like, that's not clean. Like, there is nothing clean about the way you went in and got that kid. Like, you pretty much.
But he doesn't feel like a superhero, does he?
No,
that's why it's like that's why it's realistic. Apart from like the extra like heightened senses,
it
doesn't feel like feels like he's just doing what he thinks is the right thing to do, and
Yeah.
he'll do it by any cost to get it, even if it kills him. Like,
Yeah.
whereas you don't get that a lot with the other things. It sounds, I know I keep repeating it. It sounds mental to think like it's not that realistic, but there is a way you can do it, and this is the way to do it to make these shows feel more realistic with stakes and everything else that we're longing for. So yeah, a really good episode though. Was there any more you had you wanted to go into?
I think so. I think everything that I didn't actually make that many notes for this one. It was just that Rosario Dawson's amazing. Forgot she was in it, and that first hallway scene is magic.
Notch.
Yeah,
magic.
Yeah.
So good. And I know there's a few more moments in this season that really stand out to me as well. Like I said before, I'm really excited about the Wilson Fisk episode because I love that origin story. I think that's so good. So that's our in depth for the episode 2 of Daredevil Cut Man. So I hope everyone else, if you're watching it with us, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're listening, I hope you enjoyed us talking about it. Before we wrap up this episode, though, we're going to talk a bit about a couple of other things. We're going to talk, or Nick is going to talk a little about Ahsoka. I hope I said that right. And we're also going to talk about the Rebel Moon trailer. So we'll start with Ahsoka.
Yeah. So Ahsoka. So you've only seen one episode, right?
Yeah, I've seen one out of the 2 that have been released. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So at the time of recording, we've had 2 episodes. I've seen both, and so I really enjoy it. Like, I think it's good and it's interesting. I think it's shot in a really nice way. I think all the performances are good. The only thing I thought watching it was I've seen all the animated stuff. So I've seen Clone Wars and Rebels, which I watched during COVID because there was nothing else to watch. So I was like, I will catch up on 7 seasons of Clone Wars and 5 or 4 seasons of Rebels or whatever it was. And so I sort of know the setup for Ahsoka. The thing that I was really curious about going into it, and I remember thinking this at Celebration when I was there, and they were talking about Ahsoka and stuff, is how much of that do I need to have known to watch Ahsoka? Because so much of that trailer for Ahsoka seemed like it was basically the next season of Rebels. It just seemed like here's basically the whole cast of Rebels live action, and it's Dave Filoni writing, directing, whatever. And it turns out you probably do need to have watched it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what I think. After seeing episode 1, I watched it with Yannicka again. Mm-hmm. Watched everything with, but I need to keep saying my wife. And we were both kind of like,
yeah,
like, okay, because we've kind of just been thrust into these characters, but they're talking as if we should know who they are, or why are they a big deal, or like Ewan McGregor's wife, what's her name?
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah, right.
She was just talking like I know. We've been here before. I was like, have we been here before?
Yeah.
Where have you come from? And I know you were in the Rebels thing, but I've not seen that.
Yes.
So please talk to me as if I've only seen things live action, like films and TV shows, because I'm trying to even think where Ahsoka fits into from where I've seen it in like The Mandalorian and stuff.
This is set during that same time.
Right,
so at this point, she would have met Mando. She probably would have met Luke and done the Grogu thing. Like, all of that has happened because this is very much set in that period between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens.
Rebels, yeah. Okay.
Rebels is set just before A New Hope. So it's like, yeah. But yeah, like that is definitely a downfall of the series, which is a weird thing because it's like, because I know that story, I'm watching it like, oh, this all makes sense. Like, I get it. Cool. Yeah. Like, there are things I'm nervous about because there are things they did in Rebels that I was like, that's a bit weird. But after I finished both episodes, even though I was like, this is awesome, and like Ray Stevenson's great.
Yes. But Rosario Dawson, she seems to be our link in this
Yeah, I know his
consistently
podcast.
okay podcast land. She seems
Yeah,
to be in
she's
everything that
everywhere.
we talk about most of the time.
Clerks and that. Well,
Yeah, Clerks to Daredevil to this.
um, but after I finished it, I was like, yeah, I wonder if that actually makes sense to somebody who hasn't seen Rebels or Clone Wars, and it probably doesn't. Which I think like they could have easily fixed with they had like an opening scroll to Ahsoka. Just explain it. Like just give somebody a paragraph that is this is what happens to Ezra Bridger. This is what happens to the rebels. Here's your setup.
Like we're not supposed to like with Thrawn and everything like that. Sounds like they all think he's dead, right?
Yeah, so like essentially
but I know he was teased. I know he was teased in Mandalorian. Obviously, there's chat with the council and everything like that. So I get that, but like, oh, he's making a comeback basically. But I think in my head, I was just like, yeah, he's making a comeback. He's had a little break. Like things ain't gone well for him. He's going to reassess his options and then he's going to come back steaming. But no, apparently he was dead, or they thought he was dead with some other guy.
Yeah, essentially.
And
yeah,
I saw like a side by side as well, like a comparison of something that happens in Rebels, I think, and then it happens in this as well. It's like the exact same scene where like she's touching the mural of the guy who's probably dead. I don't know. So yeah, very confusing.
Yes, that I don't think has helped anything. The fact that they recreated that scene, because that scene happens right at the end of Rebels,
right?
And so then I think people have kind of been like, wait, so this is set like before A New Hope, but then it's clearly not, because it's like the Republic have, won the war and they're trying to take over, whatever the Empire's done. So like, I don't think that helped things. That feels a little fan servicey to me, where it's like, we're going to give fans this exact same moment in live action, which is unnecessary. Like, I didn't need it. But yeah, like your gist of it, to help you a little bit, is like Ezra, who is the guy that Sabine was like looking at that video of, became a Jedi in Rebels, and then he basically goes after Thrawn, and he and Thrawn disappear in this ethereal thing, whatever it is. And when you get to the end of Ahsoka episode 2, you'll kind of find out a bit more where they've gone and why people are trying to get Thrawn back. But yeah, that is a really weird choice. Like when they did the opening scroll for Ahsoka, I was like, oh, they're going to explain it, because even I had like, it's been what, I think I watched it in 2020, so it's like 3 years, 2 years maybe, if I finished it in 2021. So like even I was like, some bits I'm patchy on. So it would have been nice if there was at least a refresher, or chuck together just a previously on
and just show that's what I said.
Yeah, just show like the animated stuff.
And show the animated stuff, so just whatever. Because that scroll at the beginning, I was looking at Yannicka, and Yannicka's like, "Do you get it?" I was like, "Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I know exactly what's going on." But I didn't know anything. I was just I just got more. I think it just probably was the wrong time for us to try this, because we didn't know what was going on, and we just had a baby, so we were like even tired than normal. So it was just like both of us kind of couldn't focus on enjoying it that much, because we were quite lost quite quickly.
I'm very curious as to
I do think it looks good. I think it looks good, and I think the acting and stuff has been very good. It's very Star Warsy, obviously. So it's these TV shows have always been very good, and other than a bit slow at the gate sometimes. So we're not going to not watch it. I didn't think I'd have to either get you to explain it to me, or probably have to Google, like, tell me everything that happens. Because if I had known, I probably would have dedicated some time to catching up a bit more. But hopefully it just like levels itself out. But we will watch episode 2. So by the time we record our next episode, I think I would have definitely seen episode 2. But I think episode 3 would have been out, and maybe episode 4 as well. So good. I'll watch it. I'll carry on watching it, Nick. Thanks for guiding me through some aspects of what the hell's going on.
There is so much. I'm really curious if, as you say, it kind of tapers off and it sort of finds its own feet as its own thing, because those first 2 episodes I was like, oh yeah, this is literally a sequel to Rebels. But so we'll see.
Speaking of Star Wars, you told me before we recorded that I should watch a trailer for Zack Snyder's new film, Rebel Moon.
Yes.
And I did.
Yeah.
Is it Star Wars?
It was. So at one point he wrote a Star Wars film, but it was like R-rated. And so obviously Disney were like, no, it's never going to happen. And so he went away and reworked it so that it became its own thing, and like it's got its own lore. Basically, it's turned into this expansive thing now because it's like 2 films, and I think he's planning a bunch of other stuff around it.
It's only on Netflix.
Yeah, because he's got that agreement with Netflix.
I know, but
they must have paid through the roof for that as well because it looks expensive.
But surely this should be like a cinema experience. Like that's the
You'd
way.
think, yeah, I mean, you think so because he's a huge cinema.
Like, yeah, he's a huge cinema guy, isn't he? He's like an advocate for it. So I feel a bit like Netflix. Like I just.
Unless they do put it in the cinema, like unless they've got an agreement that they'll put it in, because they do put some.
I mean, it says on the trailer like only in Netflix, but again, like not everyone's going to experience this cinema. If you're going to do this big epic, I mean, it looks obviously very CGI heavy, but it looks like this massive scale space event thing, and we're all going to watch it on our TVs, like, or there are some people I know that watch these sort of films on their phones.
Yeah, which is mad.
I've got nothing against that. You can't. What do you gain from that? Nothing.
Yeah.
So unless you do that thing like where you put it in a box and you put your head in the box. So but I don't know. It looks good. I'm pretty sure I saw some lightsabers in there, so that's a no-no. Surely he's going to get sued through the roof.
You can kind of see where it's like that is legit Star Wars. Like
because it's not. It looks like it's the lasers come out of her hands. This character.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know anything about. I mean, I read a bit about it in Empire magazine a little bit, but I kind of understand like it's a rebellion.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of. Yeah.
Not like Star Wars.
Yeah.
And like these different characters from different planets like banding together. There's like a princess, and then there's like 4 or 5 other like main guys in this group, and they're obviously trying to take down the dark side.
It basically sounds like Seven Samurai version of Star Wars.
Right?
Like even though Seven Samurai influenced Star Wars, this is very much like leaning closer to Seven Samurai in a sci-fi setting, because Seven Samurai is basically like bandits attack a village and these 7 people pull together to fight them.
What do you think? What do you think comes from this? Do you think you get like all the Zack Snyder fans who were like longing for more DC stuff? Nick,
I don't know, because like
or I do you get like the Star Wars people like, you fucking bastard, Zack Snyder? Like, who do you think you are? Or do you think we get like this whole like, this is it? Like, we don't need Star Wars anymore. We've got Rebel Moon and Rebel Moon 2 and Mooney and all that stuff. Like, I honestly couldn't tell you from seeing that trailer what I even think of it. I mean, I only watched it just before we started recording, so I'm flabbergasted, Nick. I don't know what I make of it.
It's mad. Like
it looks good, but it's also got all the telltale signs of like a lot of things that we see these days, like a lot of the Marvel stuff and like some of the DC stuff, where like it just looks like it's got like a box standard villain type thing. Like there was a scene where he's like putting a crown on, and was like, "This is my favorite part," and I was like, I don't know what I make of it. There's a lot of hype around it. I wonder what's the budget on it. Do you know?
I don't know. Gotta be fucking huge. It's 2 films. Like, there's no way it's a cheap film to make. Like my only fault with the trailer is that I don't get a sense of story. It's like there is a hell of a lot going on there, and it looks epic and it looks big, but it's a trailer for both films, and so I'm kind of like, I need like a bit more story. Like I obviously love Zack Snyder's films, so I'll enjoy it probably, but
it's not that big a budget.
Really?
Combined, Wikipedia at least tells me 166 million.
That's fucking mad. That looks like it's at least 200 million. 166 for 2 films. That's nutty.
I was like telling myself that's definitely Anthony Hopkins doing the voiceover, but I was like, I haven't seen him yet, so maybe it's just someone doing a very close voice, but it is him. I can see that.
Yeah, he plays a robot. Yeah, his monologue's really good though. Like, when that was the thing that grabbed me with the trailer, was like, like his monologue. I was like, that's a good bit of writing.
Wondering where I saw the lead as well. She's in the Del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. That's where I've seen her.
Yeah, she's been in a few things. Sophia, I've forgotten her surname, but yeah, she's been in a few things.
I mean, I literally just read her name and I already can't remember her name.
But yeah, it's got a good cast though. Like Charlie Hunnam's in it. I was like, sweet, big fan of him.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, it's quite a few.
Like Ed Skrein is the villain. Like, yeah, it looked like there were a bunch of people in it, and I was just like, sweet. So like, he's got a cast for it again, and there was just a lot in that trailer, and I think it would have made sense almost like if that trailer was just the one film. Like, don't tease two, just tease part one. Because I was just like, I don't know what the story is, but there were so many like epic things in it. I was just like, whoa.
It's gonna be like your typical part one, part two, isn't it? Part one's gonna be all the building, the world building, and who is this princess and stuff, and then there'll be like a chunk of action, like a little bit in the middle, loads towards the end, and then the second one will be like balls to the wall, just insane. But it's I think it looks good. I mean, it's nice that it comes out at Christmas as well. It's always nice to have a Christmas film. So
it's out on my birthday.
I just worry that
is it?
Oh yeah, it is 22nd. Yeah,
as if that's
22nd.
Yeah, Zack Snyder.
So
we'll give you a present.
Yeah, I've got to make Nick happy. But I wonder again at Christmas, it's either going to boom because everyone's going to be off, right, and watching it, or people will just be like, it doesn't feel very Christmassy. Like,
I don't know, because like I know you didn't enjoy it, but like Glass Onion came out at Christmas, right? And that seemed to do them really well on Netflix.
But no, it didn't do well for me.
No,
Nick.
But that was more.
I'm more important than everyone else.
That got that got a cinema release as it was like limited, but it did get a cinema release. So
I mean, I'd like to see Rebel Moon at cinema. Looking at the trailer, I'd like to see that sort of epic thing on the big screen. Epica, new word. I'm like roll dial, making words up as I go. Shemenchkalusk. So yeah, so it looked good. But, I'm very unsure what it will be like, but I'm excited for Zack Snyder to be out there again doing
original stuff at least, kind of.
Original stuff, yeah. I think I said last time, like I really want to watch Sucker Punch again. Like I haven't seen it for a long time, and I seem to remember I really like Sucker Punch. So,
he keeps talking about the director's cut of that because it's like I think it's one of the only films where he hasn't got it. Speaking of director's cut,
always like, you go.
Did you? I posted it on our Instagram, but I watched the ultimate cut of Watchmen, which I thought I'd seen, but I hadn't. I'd only ever seen Black Freighter separately, and I'd seen Watchmen separately. That is legit, like the coolest thing. Like blending the two, awesome. It works so well, and I was just like,
I love it.
Also, the death of I'd never seen. Again, this is how I knew I hadn't seen the ultimate cut. Is I hadn't seen the death of Hollis. So like when the gang turn up and they kick the shit into him, I was like, that's an amazing scene, but I'd never seen it. I was just like, oh,
I love it. It's the edition. I have like a Dr. Manhattan head edition of it, and it's in that quality.
Yeah,
I love Watchmen.
It's so good, like so good. So, yeah,
good. Wow. I mean, that was a good amount of stuff there. Bit of Daredevil, followed by a couple of new things. So, anything else you wanted to go over?
No, I think that's it. I don't have any other news.
So that's the end of this episode then, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks where we'll talk about Daredevil episode 3, and we're looking forward to that because it's also a very, very good episode. You can also listen to more podcasts from, we kind of live under this Get Your Comic Con umbrella now. So those guys over at Get Your Comic Con, they'll be talking a non-spoiler review for Star Trek Season 4 Lower Decks. So you can listen to those guys if you want in the meantime. And if you want to find out more from Nick and I, you can follow our social media. We have Threads at ConsistentlyPod. We have Instagram at ConsistentlyPod. You can find us on YouTube if you search for Consistently OK Podcast, where you can see us in person recording these videos. And you can find any of our old podcasts either by searching for Consistently OK Podcast, or you can go on the Get Your Comic Con website and you can find our latest episode on there as well. I think that's everything.
I think that is everything. Yeah, we did it.
All right. Well, enjoy your next few days, and keep an eye on social media, and we'll do our best to post a lot more than just one thing every 2 weeks.
Yes, we will. We will try to make it interesting.
If I didn't have time before, I don't have time now. I have another child, but we'll see what happens. So, all right, everyone, take care. Nick, take care, my friend.
Cool. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye.